Hello all, Alison here. Welcome back to Words and Pictures for some more tag time. It should be a quick one today. I've got another of the Distress Spray and Distress Oxide Spray backgrounds, which I've mounted onto some waste cardboard. And as you saw, I think it was probably last week, I've got the other die-cut flower field meadow flowers that we did have a look at to see how they would look over this background, and I think I love it. I think there's just little spatterings of shimmer in the background there, and I want to keep things pretty simple. I think rather than flat, I sort of want this to come in a little curve, so there's going to be tackling that. But then I think I really just want some very simple meadowgrass stamping in the background to just give us that sense of depth. I've pulled out some quote chips that I think are going to maybe take their position somewhere here, keeping things simple and hopefully keeping things short. We'll see. So I've grabbed some greens and turquoise and subtle archival ink colours. That's Pebble Beach, that's Leaf Green, that's Olive, and that's Beach Cruiser. And I've got some of my meadowgrassy type stamps, so the pressed grasses, the pressed umbels. I've got the new lavender from this spring, and I've got these winter grasses. So it's just going to be a question of deciding. I think I maybe want these grasses as a background, probably deep background, so we'll make them very pale and kind of almost subliminal, which means probably they're going to be in Pebble Beach, which should tone in nicely with the colours that are going on there. If you want to know what colours are on there, you're going to have a look at the background video, which I will link in the description below, because I don't remember, but all the details will be there in that video. So I'm thinking that this kind of does that. If it's too subtle, we might need to put some embossing powder on it, but actually I really like how delicate and almost not there that is. I'm going to put another little bit up here so it will just draw the eye and say, look, I am happening. Lovely grasses. I might need to stamp them on something else as well, because I'm enjoying that. And then maybe one in Beach Cruiser, just to have something a bit different. I think this one might show a little more, especially over this side. If we go with something like that. Ooh, that's lovely. Starting to wish I'd done the other side in Beach Cruiser now, but we can always have a little bit of that Beach Cruiser effect. And in a minute I'm going to have a look at how this is looking with the flowers in front of it, because what I don't want to do is go too far. Let's take one in that direction. So we've got lots of layered grasses already going on there. That's already quite good. I don't know how much more I want to do really. Maybe we put another little bit of this, except I was sort of thinking that it might be quite nice to have something up here echoing this colourway, and I'm looking at bits of ephemera, maybe something like that as a half element, or there's a post mark on this one. Just wondering whether we do want maybe a different shaped flower in there as well, maybe one of these flower heads. So you're done, thanks very much for your service. And let's maybe put, yeah, I'm gonna do it. Which two are the two like this are silhouettes. So on these sets, you get one stamp that is filled in to make a sort of silhouette shadow version, and one that is a detailed little sketch. So for this, I definitely want to be using, I'm starting to wonder whether I want to, no, let's carry on. stick to your guns, and in order to echo that one, I'm going to go very subtle with this and do it again with the, in a minute I'm just thinking I might chuck clear embossing powder over the whole lot just to give me that. I'm going to go there, I'm going to go there with it, and then I might put another one in here and maybe one down here. And then I maybe am going to go clear embossing powder. So the subtlety of those layers is really quite pleasing to me. It's just giving a sort of sense of movement in the background and layered flowers going on back into the distance. That one is a bit prominent. I'm a bit sad about that one, but you know, it is what it is. Maybe we'll have a look at what it's like to stamp, excuse me, maybe this. Onto here and have it as an element cut out and layered on. I'm going to aim for a fairly mixed part of this, so it's got some blue and some pink, hopefully, in a nice subtle Pebble Beach. And I'm thinking of only using half of this, but I'll cut the whole thing so that we've got it to look at whole to start with, even though in my brain it's already just a half. Round and round it goes. So if that's sitting there and that goes there, might be too much. Let's have a look at it cut in half. Goes something like that. No, it's a bit too matchy. Bit too matchy. Let's have a look at something sitting here. Interestingly, I'm sort of slightly regretting that background stamping. I'm wondering, maybe I should just be bold and go with whatever will stick with some white embossing powder. This could be a disaster, and then I'll just take a different tag as my background for these flowers. Let's see what's still picking up, if anything. Oh, see, that's rather nice just as it is. Before I've even heat embossed it. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to heat emboss that and I'll be back. Powder into the thing first and the lid on so I don't knock it over. Back in a sec. Well, I think that paid off. The ink had been stamped so long ago that it wasn't moist enough to completely hold powder, but it's given me a lovely sort of almost sketchy effect in places. It was just archival ink, so if I'd been using embossing ink, that would still have been wet enough, but I would have to have known in advance that I wanted to emboss in order to be using embossing ink. If it had been distress ink that I stamped in, that would probably have held its moisture long enough to grab a bit more powder. This is the Wow Bright White embossing powder, and because it was archival ink, which is a finer stamped image anyway than either of the other two slightly moister, slightly squidgier inks, it was a very fine detail stamping, and in places, particularly on those grasses as opposed to on these umbellifers, it's a very subtle emboss that I really like. So yeah, having been a bit frustrated, I've now changed my mind and I like it. I'm not sure now that I want to put this over it. I think this might belong on a different tag now. I think it might have to wait its turn and go somewhere else, because I think I've changed direction to just enjoying that exactly as it is. Something really simple. I think I want to trim that just a little bit because it's It's got quite a lot of space either side of the lettering that I don't feel like I need on this tag. Field notes. And because it says field notes, I'm just wondering about having a little bit of that ephemera. So field notes came as a stamp set and as an ephemera set. So I might just go and grab a bit of that to just have a quick play with whether I want to add any little extra field notes to what has now become a very simple, but to me really rather beautiful tag. Back in a sec. These are the field notes stamps, which are still available. These are the field notes ephemera and mini ephemeras, which sadly are not still available as a pack unless you happen to find them somewhere in a dark corner of a craft store somewhere online. But they are they're a really charming set full of little detailed things. I mean, there are lots of ephemera packs still available that you can have a play with. I'm just going to have a little, going to see what pops out into my fingertips and take that as a sign, if need be. That might be the thing we're after. The one thing I'm just watching out for is I really love these smoky little splotches here, so I don't want to lose those. It's one reason why I'm casting out those flowers. Oh, actually, now that I look at them again, maybe I do want that. Heavens above, having one of those indecisive days again. Maybe that is good, because you can still see, if I position this right, I can still see those lovely splotches behind. Okay, maybe I was too hasty in casting that out. Let's just spend a moment looking at that, and then let's spend a moment looking at that, and let's spend a moment looking at that, and spend a moment looking at that. Now, hang on, if I've got a tag here that I think would be a nice alternative for this, something like that, it would be simple enough to create another tag for this, wouldn't it? Yeah, maybe not that one, but there are tag backgrounds galore. So I'm gonna let that one hang fire, and I am gonna work from here. I'm going to have one more little look in here and see if there's anything that jumps out. Quite like that dark stamp. That's giving a bit of weight to this bottom corner. I will be sad to lose those though. Maybe it is. Maybe it really, really, really is simple. Maybe it's a little bit higher up for that so that I can keep those and those. And maybe it's a touch of twine around the back here, or a little bit of lace. Let's have a look at some lace. That could be interesting. Have we got any sitting on the desk? No, not that I can see. Oh, maybe mummy cloth. That, there usually is some on the desk. Yes, there we go. Little touch of mummy cloth to give that lovely windswept meadowgrass look. I'm just making it a bit smaller because I think that was a bit much as it was. But this could be good. This could be what I'm looking for, because it echoes those beautifully sort of sketchy meadow flowers. Other way up, if you would. That in there. It might be as simple as that, you know. And then maybe what it is a little bit of subtle stamping from here. I think this number, you can see that's a much used stamp. I think that one maybe comes down in this bottom corner in the Pebble Beach, so that it's tone on tone, but it's just adding a little bit of extra detailing down here. Yes, I love that. Hurrah! Okay, we're back on track. Maybe it's this lovely postmark here. And maybe that comes in No, don't fall off. I need to ink that up again now. That's because there's probably a little bit too much ink or dust on the back side, that it's slightly lost its adhesion, but that's easy enough. It's just a question of cleaning. That's very lovely. Yeah, something there, something subtle. Let's have a look. Or maybe, well, maybe it's that same number again, because I do like, as you know, repetition and variation. Or maybe it's something like 3. Oh, that's a beautiful stamp, that 3043. Do you want to come out and play? Did you see that? That one leapt out to say, "Can you please?" We'll see in a minute. Thank you for your offer. Gonna have this one going upright, I think, just in this corner. Some of this is not going to show because I'm stamping now over the embossed parts, and as a result, not all of that number is going to be visible. It's going to hide behind, and I really like that. Enjoying that quite a lot. Maybe there's one more thing. Maybe it is you. Maybe you're right. Maybe that is what we want. Maybe behind here, look. Let me just clean the back of that. Yes, I mean, you could see the ink on that as I turned it over, so hopefully that will now stick to my grid block properly. And I think it's here. And I think it's probably also, and again, some of this won't show, here. Just that sort of circle there is quite impactful for me. It's subliminal, but it's present. That's lovely. Okay, so here's a thing that I think is going to have to happen on this tag, which I haven't done, I think, on the channel yet, but it is something I love. I'm just going to have another little look at this butterfly, see whether he has a place here. Maybe half of him. No, not quite. Ooh, but I know what. I don't think I want to go as full on as one of the transparent moths, although it is worth having a look. That's, you're definitely a bit too dark. I think you'll steal focus. I'm going to leave you lying there while I go away and have a look for what it is that I am after, and then when I come back I'll know whether you belong there or not. He is growing on me, I have to confess. I'm a little bit taken with that as I come back to the desk and see it. I'm just going to have a look what happens if I do that behind here as an extra little bit of detailing. That's quite nice. I'm going to have to trim this a little bit because there's a bit too much of it going on. If we were to put you down and shape your wings, I think you could be quite a nice element. But I just wanted to have a look. These were the very first transparent wings, and they're really, really deliciously subtle. Sadly no longer available, but they're sort of lighter than air. They're completely transparent. What I've quite often done is I just put a little bit of white paint on the back so that they will show up a little better, and I'm wondering whether that's something. Oh, we should try you there as well, just in case that's where you live. See, it's wrong to have the moths out in daylight, that's the thing. Oh, I wonder though if that had a slightly darker thing behind it here, whether that might balance the moth. No, that's not right. Let's go back to nothing down here, but him up there. And again, I'm thinking of shaping him so that he takes off from the tag. But I think he's better down there. I think there's that sort of, I'm enjoying the sense of weight of that down in this corner, and then just letting the rest of the tag fly away. I think it could be that. So as I often do with the mummy cloth, I'm not going to glue down the mummy cloth as such. I'm going to put some glue on the back of here, this field notes label. Oops, let's glue it the right way up, shall we? And glue that over the mummy cloth, and quite rapidly put on a couple of clothes pegs to just hold that in place while it grabs hold of the tag behind. That should hopefully do that for us. I'm thinking he probably wants to go here. I'm going to look at him again here. No, it's all good. That is what I want. And then the other thing I was talking about was maybe having a little bit of dyed crinkle ribbon up here, or seam binding, also known as seam binding. It used to be sold as part of the Idea-ology range as crinkle ribbon. Magic stuff, because you can dye it with your distress inks, or you can leave it white. You can get a lovely sort of crinkled texture with it. I'm quite liking those drifts of... Might see if I can find a way of incorporating those as well. Just noticed I haven't even been working with the craft mat. So this is the seam binding. It is what you're supposed to if you're a dressmaker, which I completely and utterly am not. I guess you're meant to put it in between a seam that you're folding over. Why that should be necessary. So one of the things with this is, in its smooth form, that's already pretty. In its crinkled form, it's even more exciting to the eye. And as I said, you can tone in with anything that's going on in your background, because you can add some distress inks. Well, I'm looking at it and kind of going, there's surely some Speckled egg going on in here. There's probably a little bit of Salvaged Patina. I think they're oxides. So with this seam binding, there's a massive difference between using distress oxides on it and using distress inks on it, because the inks, as you know, are translucent and they give your ribbon a glow. The oxides are chalky, so they'll give your ribbon a much more matte kind of a finish. But you can see it's just picking up really subtle colour that's going to tone in with what's going on there. I think if I added a little bit of evergreen bough, that might get us that sort of bluey look. Oh, that's quite full on. Let's make sure it's got water. And I'm just going to take a little bit of it in a couple of places, so that's plenty, like so. And again, just crinkling it in. How's that looking for a match? It's quite white, which is good because it's picking up the meadow flowers. If I wanted to give it a warmer look, I might add a bit of pumice stone. Shall we? It'll give us a slightly more distressed look on our ribbon in places. Just a little bit of that warm grey to grunge it up a bit. That's all quite nice. Just thinking I might pick up this ink I've got here just onto this Matint mop-up background. Why not mop up a bit more? A couple of little ink speckles on there. Never did anybody any harm. Extra ink speckles. So, and this now I'm going to dry with my heat tool, and I'll get a lovely coordinating ribbon to go on my tag. Back in a sec. Final stages for what wasn't quite as quick as I thought, but is a pretty simple but very beautiful, I think, affair. That I think I'm going to attach with the tiny attachers. So again, I'm going to aim for the middle of his body. Is that where I want him? Will this reach far enough across? Is that wing getting in the way? Yes, it is. Can I slide past it with my tiny attacher? Oh, come on. What's the matter with you? You're surely not sticking up so far Is that where I want him is question number one. Do I want him a little further over so his wing is jutting out? Yeah, maybe I do. Okay, stay put, mate. I just want you there. I don't want this mummy cloth behind you, though. I want it in front of you. There. That's what it is. It's because I've already bent him up. So it's sticking up too far to get the tiny attacher past him. That's where I want you. Trying to aim for the middle of the body so that the little tiny staple shows up as little as possible. Bend him up. I haven't quite hit the middle there. Well, maybe what I need to do then to balance things. Oh dear, the perils of perfectionism. So for all that I say, embrace imperfection. That was a step too far. So I'm just bending his wings up. I haven't done anything with the heat tool. Just getting that sort of lovely sense of fly away. And through the top here, I think I'm just going to thread the crinkle ribbon. Through it goes, little pokey tool just to get it to go up. Is that going to be long enough like that? Yes, nice. And then I'm going to poke through a little bit of this as well. Or maybe I can just rest it, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie this with some twine, so that then I've got the twine echoing the sort of pumice stone colours at the base of the tag. It'll just bring it all together, I think, in a rather nice way. There we go, sort of lovely floaty feminine part, and then the standard fine twine, just going to give that a little curl, see if that'll, there we go, that's a bit better. I really rather like that. Just wondering, as you can probably guess, whether I want a tiny touch, the tiniest touch of white spatter. I don't think it needs much, because we've got this beautiful softness already going on in that stamping. I'm just going to do a little bit of frayed burlap around the bottom here, and I might even go so far as a little bit of walnut stain, because again I just want that sense of grounding at the base of the tag. Might be nice to get just something a little darker to really give us, so that was frayed burlap, this is walnut stain, and I just want to capture that sense of the earth at the base of this tag, just giving it that sense of rootedness down towards the moth. All good. So these flowers are going to have to live and wait for another tag background. Now that I'm looking at that, I sort of want to see what happens if yeah, it just wants the barest of edgings. But I like the lighter than air feel of this. I think I do want the teeniest bit of spatter. Yeah, I'm addicted, clearly addicted to spatter. I don't want much, so I'm just going to put the tiniest bit of snowflake fresco paint there and see if I can restrict myself to not spattering all the way over this. It's going to be quite subtle spatter. See, that piece is too big, so I'm going to take it away. It was mostly that sort of empty patch in the middle I wanted to hit, but it could also take a little bit round there. And as you know, I do like to hit the wings of any acetate moths, because I think it just draws the eye to the fact that that's a dimensional thing happening there. Too much going on there, covering up my postmark. So again, just going to knock that back, go for a subtler one. Yeah, I think that is done. So I'm going to dive in for a close-up. Thank you, as always, for your company on this creative journey. As you can see, you just have to be ready to change direction when things need to go somewhere else. There's something delightful to me about the simplicity of that, the neutrals with that touch of spring greens, soft spring greens. Thank you as always. I'll put details down in the description below of the things we've been using today, links to the background video for this spritzy background. Do give me a thumbs up if you've enjoyed today's creative tag time, and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks so much for your company, and happy crafting all.